And as long as it means the same thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. Thanks, Ryan. Bye. There's chairs in the hallway.
I didn't receive the certificate on Monday. I have one more after that.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I checked it. I was wrong. Thanks. Yep.
Hey Jason, how are you? Okay, Brad. You're gonna say hello?
As an option. Now she's there. Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Friendly invitation. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call when you're ready.
Davis,
Here.
North here, Miller, Hughes, okay, Felicity, here, this one's here.
All right. We'll open the first public comment at 6:01. Public comment, any person wishing to address the board may do so one time per public comment period. This comment/input option, the board is not required to comment or respond to presenters. Silence or non-response from the board should not be interpreted as disinterest, disagreement by the board. Comments shall be addressed to the chair and not to individual board members or others in the audience.
I'm disappointed that Mary Miller isn't here. I got to know her when we were campaigning, and I gave her a book she was very appreciative of. And I have a book that I'm hoping a friend of mine in honor bought a case of them. And we have a public health problem that's gotten worse all over. The theory that marijuana, this is just quotes, I'll be real fast. The theory that marijuana can fix the opioid crisis has become close to conventional wisdom since 2014. That belief is just misleading. Recent papers that incorporate post-2010 data show the opiate deaths are rising as faster in states that have legalized marijuana. And the author, this Alex Berenson, and a New York professor, analyzed overdoses, drug use data, found that states that had higher marijuana use, slightly more opiate deaths, but significantly more cocaine use. Other studies show a strong link between marijuana and opiate. But he's an investigative reporter, and this is his direct comment. When I began researching marijuana, mental health, and violence, I didn't expect much. I was just wrong. Dozens of well-designed studies have linked marijuana with psychosis and schizophrenia. Researchers have found marijuana users much more likely to develop schizophrenia. The long, complex, and diligent quest by scientists, psychiatrists to understand the link between marijuana and psychosis is a crucial part of what this group was about. The most important finding of all was in 2017 when the National Academy of Medicine issued 468-page research report entitled The Health Effects of Cannabis. Formerly called the Institute of Medicine, the Academy is a nonprofit group that charters committees to examine scientific questions. Committee members serve as volunteers and are supposed to be unbiased, free of conflict. Their reports are the gold standard. To produce the cannabis report, 16 professors and doctors worked with a staff of 13 for more than a year. It was the first time the Academy had looked at the health effects of marijuana since 1999. The committee examined thousands of studies and papers and was careful not to overstate the evidence in either direction. For example, it reported marijuana does not cause lung cancer. That was the only good news. On mental health, the report is just grim. The committee found a strong evidence that marijuana causes schizophrenia and some evidence that it worsens bipolar and increases the risk of suicide, depression, and social anxiety. So cannabis use is likely to increase the risk of developing schizophrenia and other psychosis. And the higher the use, the greater the problem. So in other words, and I found that Mary was very open. She didn't maybe agree with me, but she was very open. So anyway, she's not here. So I'm going to give the book to Davis, and I hope if any of you want to hear the scientific evidence, you'll share the book. That's it. I'm sorry, can I get your name? Mary, last name Han, with 2 H's.
No, I just needed your name for the comment.
That's
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Laura Trammell, 16459 Fewens Road. First of all, the sign looks great, so thank you for that. Second of all, seems to be a lot of people here, so I'm sure we're all curious about all these paper articles in the newspapers that shine very poorly on our township board. It's quite embarrassing. And I would like to know the status of these reports that were sent to the governor's office, the attorney general's office, the state police. I haven't heard anything about this in any of the meetings I've come to, other than a couple of snips here and there. And personally, and I've mentioned it at several meetings, that everything seems to be going well from what I can see. So in the background, there's a lot of stuff happening that we aren't privy to. So I don't know the rules in terms of what we need to see, but I do want to address what we actually see. And one of the things which you've heard me complain about time and time again is the transparency and what happens here and the way these meetings go. Last month was a perfect example. I believe that if you're going to take an actionable item in the middle of the meeting, that it needs to be part of the agenda, and you need to have examples of what you're going to bring up and what you're going to talk about. When the clerk wants a new printer, she puts 3 copies of the different like quotes in there, so that we know, so that at the meeting I can show up and say, you don't need a new printer, or that's way too much. But if in the middle of the meeting, the clerk says, I need a new printer, you guys vote on a new printer, we have no idea. And that's what happened last month when the event committee was wanting to be disbanded, when that was brought up. There was nothing in the agenda. It turned into a mess. I got angry. We were all like yelling at each other. It was a mess. And it shouldn't have been that way. It should have been part of the agenda that here's what the attorney said, this is what happened, blah, 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 here's his response, here's this. We're gonna either bring it up so that you can see it ahead of time and speak to it at the first public comment, or we bring it up at last meeting and then we vote on it the next meeting. That's how the city of Traverse City does. They don't bring things up in the middle of the meeting and vote on it. So I feel like a lot of it is just preparation, organizing. If you have something that you want to do in a meeting, put it in the packet. So that's my question. I don't like to keep complaining and saying, but we all come here. The main couple of things I'm curious about is, one of the things when you interviewed for this position, you said transparency was was very important to you, and you mentioned that you would be open to live streaming the meetings. Well, I haven't seen anything about that. I've asked about it multiple times. We have all the equipment. And then also the meetings are no longer being recorded, which that wasn't voted on during a meeting. So I would like to know when that was decided, where it was decided, who decided it. I personally think that should have been something on the agenda. The public could speak to it, because I can't be at every one of these meetings. So if I'm not able to be here, how am I going to know what's being done? Because so much is being done that's not part of these pamphlets that I can get online. So that's where I want to say, I do say you all have been doing well in front of us. What's going on behind the scenes is kind of freaking me out. So thank you for letting me speak to that.
William Ford out 16341 Brundage Road. In comment to her question about recordings, I'm understood that we have a new recorder and the clerk chooses not to record meetings. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's what I've heard. Secondly, I know our last meeting, I believe that's Monica over there was asking questions about a police report. Very boisterous about it. And I have seen police report and read the police report. And it is foiable if you're interested in it. If you wanna know what it says, I'll be happy to tell you. You made a big deal about it last meeting.
First of all, my name's not Monica, you need to get your names right.
Oh, well, then I apologize. But if it was you, then I'm addressing the right person.
You have to address me, so.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I don't wanna offend. Okay? But now my concern with the police report, the wording that Rose stated to another member here about putting a bullet in her head, can she work with this other person? Is she willing to drop whatever hatred she has? I mean, that's scary in this time now. Can she work with the treasurer? That's my concern. Can they work together as a team to promote the township? It's up to those two. And I want to see it work, but I have no control over that. That is the concern I have. Stuff like that shouldn't go on. Just that simple. If it's that bad, find another job. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Oh, Alan McCullough, 20359 Douglas Road. Anyways, this addresses some of the issues that Lee here brought up. But the one I would like to have a good handle on is that audit you guys did about a month and a half ago that involved the dispute and the responsibilities of the treasurer and the clerk. What happened to that audit? Is it available?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Yes.
Can I get it here tonight?
Yep.
Oh, okay, great. Another thing is, thank you, that's a bright spot. Can you guys provide, can you afford microphones?
We can, yeah, it's just been a matter, I'm not big on trying to run wires through everything, so I tried to talk to GT Mobile. They wanted to put in like a super high-end system. So I just gotta find time to work on it, because I'm basically having to set it up myself.
Well, okay, I think.
To keep the cost down.
All right, are there just like PA systems you could use in the meantime?
Oh, just to make us louder, you mean?
Yeah, right, so we can understand what's going on at the table, that's it. You know.
Yeah, I'm not looking
Might look into that, yeah, because sometimes you guys mumble a lot, or it seems to me you do. So I guess that's it, thank you.
Jim Brower. I share Laura's concerns, and there's a number of people who have talked to me both in the township and outside of our township. I think there's a toxicity that is growing that shouldn't be here. And it's more reminiscent of junior high student council than it should be of a township board. There are a number of incidents, but I'll boil it down to one. I received a call toward the end of our tax season, and I think I received the call because I gained some, lack of a better term, notability during the gravel pit kerfuffle of being in the know. And the caller was trying to drop off their taxes for this last season, and the clerk wouldn't receive them. After having bitter words back and forth, they were eventually taken. But the disturbing thing was the innuendo which was made that was very clear that the reason they weren't being taken and should be given directly to the treasurer was that there were missing funds in the township. And this is a rumor that I've heard go around that I don't think has any foundation. And it certainly isn't something that should be coming from any of the board members to others. I have since heard indirectly, that was a very direct comment that came to me firsthand, and I've heard indirectly others who have received similar comments from similar incidents. So it's not a one-off. And I think nonsense like that absolutely is intolerable and should not be coming from our board. So, thank you.
I've prepared a statement I'd like to read. I'm public too. I'm also a member of the public, am I not?
Okay.
Well, so this sort of addresses several of the comments made. And so on July 12th, we did, as a board, vote to bring an auditor in. It was stated during the meeting that the supervisor wanted to confirm whose responsibility it was to do what regarding the reconciliations. During my time working with the auditor, she stated to me that it was my responsibility to balance the bank statements. She told me that I could do this on paper, in Excel, or through the BS&A reconciliation program, which is the very preferred method. Once I cleared all banking entries, all deposits, checks, transfers, withdrawals, I turned all the paperwork over to the clerk, including the bank statement and the printout of the reconciliation. At this point, it is the clerk's responsibility to balance the general ledger to the bank reconciliation. The clerk is responsible for finding and correcting any discrepancies between the two and making any necessary adjustments to the general ledger. Once the needed corrections and/or journal entries are made, the treasurer is supposed to receive the paperwork back to finalize the reconciliations. Both the clerk and the treasurer should sign the reconciliation prior to the finalization. The treasurer signs to verify all banking is done correctly, to my knowledge, and the clerk signs to verify that the bank statements match the general ledger. This is the only way that we have checks and balances in place to protect all of the people here. Should be a simple process. Since we paid for the auditor's recommendations, shouldn't we follow them? Since I started as treasurer, I have done my part of the reconciliations within the first week of each month. The accounts that I balance include Michigan Class, State Savings Account, State Savings CD, Honor CD, Parks, the trust account, the tax account, the perpetual care, and the general fund. The only fund account I have problems with balancing is the general fund. Since the audit, I have yet to receive a single signed reconciliation back. On several occasions, I've offered my help to both the clerk and to the supervisor and have asked for permission to make the necessary corrections that I know need to be made myself. Last week, I was told they were done, but when I checked my last working day, Thursday, they still were not done. We have several months that require journal entries to be made in order to balance to the general ledger. At the advice of the auditor, I am sharing this information. Prior to the audit, I often spent several hours trying to figure out and correct mistakes made to the general ledger in order to balance. When it became impossible for me to do, I brought it to the attention of this board, which led to the decision to the auditor, which then turned into account accusing me of stealing money. I've been told by several members of the public that they have come into this township, which is basically what Jim just stated, and they were refused to take their tax payment. They were told that I could not be trusted to credit their payment to their tax account, so they didn't want to be involved with touching the payment. I have not stolen or misappropriated any money, yet I continue to hear from people that have been told otherwise by members of this board. They have told me it was directly from members of this board. If there was money missing from any account, you could bet that I would have been arrested immediately. There is no missing money. There is money not assigned correctly in the general ledger. As I stated already, the general ledger is the clerk's responsibility. I would also like to set the record straight on the supposed bouncing of payroll checks stated at the last board meeting. Slander. There have never been a single bounced payroll check. I never claim to be perfect, and I am aware that we can all make mistakes. Last December, when doing a transfer, I'm trying to give you transparency, when doing a transfer for payroll taxes, I made a mistake. I transferred the correct amount for our payment into the fund we use for electronic transfers, but when I entered the amount in the electronic federal tax payroll payment system, I transposed two numbers, causing an overpayment to them of $540. The bank noticed that there were not enough funds transferred to cover the error and called me. They covered the difference and I immediately came into the office, transferred the money, called the IRS to let them know of my mistake, and asked what I needed to do to correct it. The person whose name and badge number, date and time I wrote down on the statement in my office, the lady I talked to said to just short the tax amount or the incorrect overpayment amount the next month, and we would balance out. The bank The system automatically charged us a fee for it as a return thing, but as soon as I made the transfer, they refunded us. So it cost us no money. It worked itself out the next month. I took all the necessary steps to correct the problem. I informed the clerk that I had made the problem, and I learned an important lesson to not only double but triple check all of my numbers in the system. When I started here, I went to the clerk and offered my apology for an incident that happened a few years before regarding my ballot, and stated that I hoped we could put the past behind us and work together. She said that I embarrassed her in front of other people, so that would never happen. Despite all of this, I'm a true believer that the truth eventually comes out. I enjoy working with the people of my community. I like my job, and I will continue to do my responsibilities to the best of my ability with truth and integrity, and always with the best interests of the Inland Township residents in mind. I have not stolen money, and if you have any questions, and if you want to spread any more lies, bring them.
Any other public comment?
Ron Thomas, 19480 Honor Highway. And the county commissioners are talking about combining different programs, putting funds all into one. But they gotta get the township officials to agree on it, all the township. Well, I don't agree with that. Because we're gonna transfer one fund to another, and once this fund don't have money, what are we gonna do with that? That's what
Well, I have one quick question on the packet. What is section 6 penalties?
That's part of the lockbox ordinance.
All right.
Any other public comment?
So I'm thankful that last month Ryan was able to be here and he recorded the meeting, so I was able to watch it. And in doing so, re-listening to it, I find that several of the motions that were made are not accurate in the minutes. I think that's a very good point, that the meetings need to be recorded and listened to when you're typing up the minutes, for sure. I guess I'd like to ask Dave, he made a statement, said, we were already in discussion about shutting down the event committee, and you motioned to the board at that point. Who on the board is we? I sent in a FOIA request, and you disclosed that nobody, and you had nothing. There was no documentation showing that there was any discussion, so I don't know who we is. Sherry, you said that no one was stepping up to do events. Just wondered how you came to that conclusion, because it's the only time anybody's ever been to any of our event committee meetings, other than Treese, who's on the committee, was Dave, and he came to the first one after he was appointed to his new position. So I'm not sure how you're saying none of us are stepping up to do any events. Rose, you had said that money raised by the event committee was always supposed to be used for the Bendon Hall. That's not true. It clearly states in our bylaws that the purpose, under number 3, is to provide fundraising and promotional activities to benefit the community. And it clearly stated in the minutes from November 12, 2018, that the budget for the Bendon Hall was reviewed and a motion was made by Wilson to approve keeping the Bendon Hall open for the winter, and Beechcraft seconded. It was approved unanimously, except for Pelosi was excused. Sherry, in your motion, it was to temporarily suspend the event committee while the bylaws were reviewed. Has that meeting taken place? If so, when? And what were the results of it? Dave, Rose, Sherry, and Mary all voted to temporarily suspend the event committee. Did anyone bother to contact any of the members of the committee to tell them that? Did anybody ask what the event committee does? The answer is no. None of you had the courtesy to do any of that. No one plans anything with any forethought. One of the event committee events is the hymn sing, and us committee members take turn helping the 90-plus-year-old person that's recovering from a stroke set up. But because we were suspended, we couldn't do that. And the only reason anything got done is I sent a message to Dave and Rose the morning of asking, is it going to get done? And I got no response. The only way I knew that anything got done was I actually talked to Nellie after the fact. So looking at the agenda for tonight, the event committee is not even listed. So what's your plan for that? I feel that your suspension of the event committee is a personal vendetta against me, and I'm not sure why. I've done nothing but to try to do good for this community. A lot of the $6,000 that's in the fund, event committee fund, is raised because of my hard work, and I've personally been trying to do and bring good to the community. Once the new supervisor came in, things have changed. I believe that you don't like that I'm questioning your actions and want transparency and accountability. From my experience, the only people that don't like that are people that have something to hide. In the past year, since the supervisor announced that he was selling the Bendon Hall and I was forced to find another place to host euchre, the event committee has lost out on $1,752 in just funds from the euchre entry fees. That doesn't include any money from the concession sales. Also, because of the lack of cooperation with the board and the fire chief, the event committee has lost out over $3,100 because we're not able to do our 2 annual craft shows or the farmers market this past year.
Any other public comment?
Peggy Case, 15398 Homestead Road. I've kind of, this is my first year attending board meetings, I believe, and trying to be involved in the community and do some, public service, which is my goal. And I am very disturbed by all of the, what I call nitpicking, picking at each other, bringing up all kinds of problems and issues, and not spending really any time lately talking about the things that need to be done in this community to serve the community. I'm very frustrated that we're not being the kind of leadership group, and I mean all of us who do volunteer work and stuff that the community really deserves. I mean, we're in a state of crisis all over the place. There's a half a dozen crises that you could list that mean that we need to do more for the people who live in this community. Whether it be dealing with drug addiction, whether it be dealing with homelessness, health issues, housing, all of the big stuff that people are facing. And we're picking apart the punctuation in the minutes and the, this and that little tiny thing that to me means very little. I know it means something to the people who are involved, but I would suggest that you find a mediator of some kind of a way that the opposing groups can get together and sort this out so it stops. So we just move on and get back to work doing the things that we want to do in this community. It's very frustrating for those of us who are watching this process work itself out.
Very frustrating for us who are involved in it as well. We're trying to
Well,
do
then
a good
I
job.
suggest you do something to make it better, and that means that
That's what
that
I'm trying.
everybody
That's
has,
what I'm trying.
instead of just continuing to list all the things that the other folks have done wrong, because everybody's done something wrong.
Exactly.
Everybody has. We're all, I'm the head of a water conservation group that's been around for 23 years. If people came after me for every little mistake I made, I'd be in my grave, But we need to figure out what's the biggest priority, and I think at this point, to me, it looks like this needs to stop. It needs to go in a different direction for everybody. And so for you, I would suggest you find some way to bring in
some outside consultant or something that can put this back together.
Yeah, that's what I believe in too, teamwork. But we need to get the team to get together.
Tanya Struble, 20168 Fields Road, Carolina, Michigan. Yeah, I would go with that. I think that the board needs to do something to get rid of the hostile environment that exists here. And that way, if you did that, then you could better serve the community. Thank you.
I'm willing. I'm willing to have that happen.
Any other public comment? Or public comment, 6:30. Meeting agenda.
Make a motion that we approve the meeting agenda as presented.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda approved.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear none of that. Could y'all repeat that for me?
Sorry, we just
please?
approved the agenda, sorry.
I heard her mumble a
Okay.
few words, and that's all I heard.
Okay.
So could we repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
She made a motion that we approve the agenda for the meeting. I seconded. We all said aye.
All right, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Sorry about that.
You have the agenda.
Can you take a break, maybe?
Okay, break, Terry. Yeah, all right, let's recess. 6:32. Hey, Dave.
That's an hour, it's really good.
No.
You want to go with that?